Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Hello learners, my name is Stephen Kariungi, a biology teacher, and I'm going to take you through a Form 3 topic, and that is reproduction in plants and animals. First of all, before we go on with the topic, it is important to understand what are the objectives of this topic. What are the requirements by the examiners as far as reproduction in plants and animals is concerned? So let us look at the chapter objectives. Now, the first objective, we need to understand the meaning of the term reproduction. We need to understand the meaning and types of reproduction that we have. The other objective that we need to fulfill is to be able to differentiate mitosis and meiosis. These are the two types of cell division that we have. And we say that cell division is the basis of reproduction. So for reproduction to take place, cells need to divide. So we need to understand the different types of cell division. We also need to describe the importance of reproduction. On this, we are asking ourselves, why is reproduction important? Why is reproduction important to plants and animals? And then from there, we need to get now into the details about reproduction in plants. And in this case, we need to describe the structure and function of the flower. Describe the structure and function of the flower because the flower is the reproductive organ in a plant. So basically, we will not look at the leaves, the stem, and the roots. No. We will only concentrate ourselves on the flower because it's the part of the plant that take part in reproduction. Chapter objective number 5 is to be able to describe pollination and the agents of pollination. So we need to understand how does pollination occur and what are the various agents that are used in pollination. And then finally on plants, we need to describe the modes of seed and fruit dispersal. We need to understand the modes of seed and fruit dispersal. So that will be the end of the objectives as far as the plants are concerned. As a continuation of the same, we will continue with the animals. And the first thing about the animals, we need to differentiate. We need to differentiate between internal and external fertilization. We need to differentiate between internal and external fertilization. That is in animals. Then we continue with the same, and we shall describe the structure and function of the mammalian reproductive system. So we shall describe the structure and function of the mammalian reproductive system, whereby we shall use human beings as an example. Objective number 5 will be to discuss the role of hormones in human reproduction, and then finally, second from last, we will also discuss the sexually transmitted infections, what we call the STIs, and then finally, we will discuss the advantages and disadvantages of sexual and asexual reproduction. So those will be our objectives. So the first chapter objective is to understand the meaning and the types of reproduction. Number 2, to differentiate between mitosis and meiosis. These are the two types of cell division. Then number 3, describe the importance of reproduction. How is reproduction important in our life? Number 4, describe the structure and function of the flower. Remember, the flower is the reproductive organ in plants. Describe pollination and agents of pollination. We look at that. Describe the modes of seed and fruit dispersal. Now, from animals, we shall start from objective number 7, whereby we shall differentiate between internal and external fertilization. Then we shall describe the structure and function of the mammalian reproductive system. We shall look at the role of hormones in human reproduction. We shall also discuss the sexually transmitted infections in humans. And then finally, we shall discuss the advantages and disadvantages of sexual and asexual reproduction. So that is a summary of the chapter objectives that we shall go through in this particular topic. So for now, I want us to embark on an introduction. And in this introduction, we want to understand the first objective, and that is the meaning of reproduction. And we can say that reproduction, which is one of the characteristics of living organisms, is the ability of mature organisms, the ability by mature organisms to give rise to offspring of their own kind. So in this case, if you are talking about, for example, human beings, are the human beings mature and able to give rise to offsprings of their own kind? That is reproduction. So you can say that is the ability by mature organisms to give rise to offspring of their own kind. Of their own kind or of their own species. Now, having understood that, the next thing that we shall look at is which are the two types of reproduction. Types of reproduction. And the types of reproduction, there are two. One, there is what you call sexual reproduction, and there is asexual reproduction. So we'll go through each one of them and discuss sexual reproduction, and then after that we shall discuss asexual reproduction. Now, sexual reproduction is the type of reproduction that involves the gametes. Gametes are sex cells. In this case, what happens is that during sexual reproduction, the male gametes fuse with the female gametes to form a zygote. And the process involved is called fertilization. So, to start with that, so it involves the fusion. Fusion is the joining together of the male and the female gametes to form a zygote. And the process whereby the male nucleus fuses with the female nucleus is referred to as fertilization. So we can say that so that process we refer to it as fertilization. So basically we can say that sexual reproduction involves fertilization. It involves the fusion of the male nucleus and the female nucleus. We shall look at what is the male nucleus in different organisms, possibly in plants, in animals, and then we can be able to see and understand how fertilization occurs. The next type of reproduction is the asexual reproduction. And this type of reproduction does not involve the use of gametes. What it does, this is whereby mature organisms give rise to offspring of their own kind without involving fertilization. So we can have this is where mature organisms without the use of gametes, or we can say without fertilization. So we shall later look at the different modes of asexual reproduction in different organisms. But basically is where a mature organism will give rise to another organism of its own kind, but without involving the use of gametes or without any fertilization involved. So basically in asexual reproduction, it's only one organism that is involved. But in the case of sexual reproduction, there are two organisms that are involved, because one produces the male gametes and the other one produces the female gametes. So we look at these in much more details as we have done. So basically for today, we have gone through the objectives of the entire chapter, what we shall be expected to learn. And then we have also introduced the meaning of the term reproduction, which is a characteristic of all living organisms. And we have stated that it's the ability by mature organisms to give rise to offspring of their own kind or of their own species. Then we have gone ahead and looked at two types of reproduction, that is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. We have gone ahead and explained that sexual reproduction involves the fusion of the male and the female gametes to form a zygote. And I've explained that gametes are sex cells. We shall look at those sex cells in more details much later. Then the process by which the male nucleus, the nucleus of the male gamete, fuses with the female nucleus is called fertilization. Then in the second type of reproduction, that is asexual, we have mature organisms giving rise to organisms of their own kind without the use of gametes or without fertilization. And also, we shall look at it in more details as we go into other sub-topics within this particular chapter. So we are going to stop there for now, and we shall have an assignment based on what we have learned. So we'll have two questions for a start, being the beginning of the topic. The first question, explain the meaning of reproduction. Explain the meaning of the term reproduction. Number two, state and explain the two types of reproduction in living organisms. So those are the two questions for the day. So you're going to stop there. See you next time.